suspected that the auxiliary pump wasn't working. Uh, this is after my trip to France. We got back fine, no problems at all. But after putting the car all back together, I think I mentioned it in the previous video, the heater wasn't blowing out hot air very well. The engine warmed up fine, everything like that, stable temperature on the gauge, but it took a long time for heat to start coming out. And on the way back as well, I noticed it wasn't blowing out very much hot air. So another thing was as well, it did lose a bit of coolant. And before I left as well, because I'd noticed the heater problem, I sort of got the coolant bottle, disconnected the screw there, undid the screw there, and sort of tried to prise it out a little bit just to check this connection here. Back of the pump was on, and I also wanted to just check this pipe here because it's that quick release pipe. And I have seen, I think it was that Gasoline Garage, this fella from, I think he's from the UK. I don't know what his name is, but he's he had an XJR. I think he sold it now. Anyway, he did a little video, and his XJR, I think it was a later model, and this it must have been a facelift one. I think perhaps one of the pipes he had on his thermostat assembly, like pipe assembly, this pipe, this cast pipe here, I think it was this pipe on his. It was a quick release connector, or maybe it was this one, but it was like facing down. I'll have to look at the video again. Anyway, he had a bit of a weep from that, and he replaced the O-ring in the pipe. So I thought, well, I'll get myself a set of O-rings. So I bought some Hilker O-rings, screw fix, 20 quid. Really decent set. Well, I think they're decent. Hopefully, I hope so. Well, O-ring's an O-ring, isn't it? Lovely set of O-rings, all sorts of different sizes, different widths as well, profiles. Anyway, so I've drained the coolant. I didn't take I mean, somebody's already sawed a hole at the bottom where the radiator drain cock is, so I just undid that. Got most of the coolant into containers. Anyway, long story short, the pump's burnt out. I've tested it with a battery, putting 12 volts straight onto there, and you can see that's definitely live. I haven't got my stand with me, but great filming, Mike. That is, it's not working. So I'm wondering whether, well, I think this pump has burnt out by the looks of it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these are magnetic drive, so there's no shaft going through with an impeller. It's a magnet that is driven round, and then that corresponds with a magnet on the other side. But I'm going to open that up in a minute, just check it's not blocked or physically jammed. Anyway, I think that's I think they call that an EV1 connector. I've got some connectors like that I bought to make an injector cleaning kit. So I'll be able to. I haven't showed you this, have I? Long story short, when that pump was either burning out or seized or whatever, it's actually that connector is damaged. It's been burnt out, overheated, melted. So two things: I need to crimp a new connector onto that, which is going to be really good fun with it being down there in that. What I'll do is I'll get a new pump. I'll clean up that connection with a wire brush and some contact cleaner, and I'll try a new pump on it. An 0392 020 071 Bosch auxiliary coolant pump. Right, this is the transmission line repair video. So, after a further discussion with Friction Hydraulics, who have very kindly sold me some metric fittings, I turned down with a die grinder the 1/2 inch OD pipe to 12mm, so that the metric fittings, which are JL7 18mm metric fittings, will go on to that pipe. The other end of the pipe, which is, if you know these cars, you will know, comes from the gearbox, runs up over the subframe, well, between the subframe and the steering rack, well, between the car and the steering rack, and then over there under the sump, and then up to here. So what I've done is I've got this Magnuson pipe cutter, and I've cut it down. I've cut some of the knobbly bits off it and removed the turnbuckle screw thing off the end to make it really small as I could. And I've spent probably half an hour or more just slowly cutting those pipes off, because these 1/2 inch pipes, now Friction Hydraulics has told me that people just don't use imperial pipes in the UK, but they did get me these. Well, I'll have to ask him what size, what standard they are, but they are to fit a 1/2 inch OD pipe, and these cost me £30 each. And he says the reason why they're expensive is they don't sell many of them. That's it. So anyway, next job is to crimp them on, or their compression fittings with the olives and that. So I'm going to put them on now to the pipes on the car, and then do the other end, and then off, measure up the rubber pipe, and then we'll, if we've got time today, nip back up there and get them swaged so that tomorrow or the day after on the weekend I can finally fit the transmission lines. The sump, the gearbox. Now, yesterday I got as far as putting the gearbox sump, well, got the old sump back off, put the socket on. I think I've got some footage of that, the new socket in, and then I was like, oh, I sort of chickened out of doing the bridge seal and the other seals, taking the valve body off and that. And then overnight I was thinking, I should do that really, it's not that hard, and why not? I'm there. So I went to take the socket out, but because it's got new O-rings, it took quite a lot of force to push it in. I couldn't pull it out, and I didn't want to wreck it by pulling it with pliers or anything like that. So I've just put the gearbox back together for now. I think possibly in a year, maybe something like that, I'll I'll do another drain and refill on this gearbox because I want it to last. And I'll try the socket at that point. I'll probably buy another socket and pull that one out. The O-rings will have hardened off a bit by then, and it'll be a bit easier to pull it out. So for now, the gearbox works perfectly as it is. So rather than tempt fate, go any further than I really need to, I'm going to leave it at that and concentrate on these lines, because under pressure again. I've got another car coming in here for an overhaul soon, so I need to get this out of the way. It's just nuts and bolts.